The big mess in Maricopa County in the presidential preference election was a big news story around the country. We've got the county recorder talking about the primary. Welcome to the Mike Broomhead Show.
Well, I got a message, I got a song. Can I get a witness? Tell me what's going on. Show the people.
The Maricopa County Recorder, Helen Purcell, is going to join the show this week to talk about Arizona's primary election, which happens on Tuesday. It's going to be a great interview, so you're going to want to stick around for that. But, of course, we start every one of these shows off with something we call the sweep. Let's talk about the elections. Donald Trump seems to be softening his stance on immigration. I don't know what it does to the hardline supporters of Donald Trump, the immigration hardliners who have talked about deportation of 11 million people. Donald Trump still says he is going to build a wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. But if you remember going back, it seemed it was categorized that he was lumping everybody in together. He has changed his tune to a certain degree. I want you to hear the difference, because now Donald Trump is not talking about deporting 11 million people. He's talking about some kind of a system of possibly vetting people and people that are in the country illegally that may be good people that may be staying. Watch this.
There certainly can be a softening, because we're not looking to hurt people. We want people. We have some great people in this country. We have some great people in this country. So, but we're going to follow the laws of this country. And, you know, we have, what people don't realize, we have very, very strong laws.
You know that Donald Trump has really done a lot on the immigration front as far as morphing his message. Will it alienate some of his base? I don't think so. I think that they realize that he has brought this to the forefront. We'll see if this works, because it's working in the polls. Reince Priebus, the head of the Republican National Committee, said he believes if Donald Trump stays on this path, this tone, this tenor, this attention to some of the details, and Hillary Clinton continues to falter the way she is with the email scandals and everything else, that by Labor Day, Donald Trump will be in a dead heat statistically with Hillary Clinton, maybe even a point or two ahead. We'll see if that comes true. And speaking of Hillary Clinton, let's talk about Hillary Clinton for a moment. More emails, 15,000 emails. This time, Judicial Watch, the FBI finding more emails, this time about the relationship between the State Department and Hillary Clinton and her foundation. If you remember, Hillary Clinton signed a pledge saying that there would be a firewall, that's their word, a firewall between the State Department business and the foundation. Well, we found out that there has been no such thing. That even though Hillary Clinton had no direct contact with anybody at the foundation, her chief of staff, Cheryl Mills, did. We know Huma Abedin did. We know that the Crown Prince of Bahrain, he donated $32 million over a 5-year period to the Clinton Foundation, and got a meeting not through diplomatic channels, being the Crown Prince and being an ally to the U.S., but by going through the foundation's upper echelon. It's all in the emails. Donald Trump trying to capitalize on this. Now I want you to see Donald Trump at a rally, and he points out what Hillary Clinton does and preferential treatment. Watch.
What's happening right now with government favors, then the whole American system is threatened. So many people, for doing so far less, are right now suffering tremendous repercussions, tremendous, for doing so far less, for doing a tiny fraction of what Hillary Clinton did. It is a disgrace.
So there you have it. He is going very hard after Hillary Clinton for all of the influence peddling and everything that's wrong with American politics. This is the path. If Donald Trump is going to win, it will be on that issue and on the issue of the economy, where Hillary Clinton is promising a tax increase of $100 billion a year. Donald Trump wants to lower the corporate tax rate. Those two issues will get him to victory if he sticks to those two issues. And finally, in the sweep, Sheriff Joe Arpaio is facing criminal charges. He has not been charged yet, but the judge in the civil case, where he was found in civil contempt of court with the racial profiling cases in the sheriff's office. And we know what's happened in the sheriff's office, where federal agencies have taken over parts of the sheriff's office because they say of the problems within the agency. But then the judge saying he didn't know if the evidence brought itself to the level of criminal charges. Well, after a review last week, the federal judge said yes, and he has referred the Joe Arpaio contempt case to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Arizona for prosecution. Now, will they charge? We don't know. But here you have the sitting sheriff in Maricopa County, one of the most recognizable names in American law enforcement, that is now facing the possibility of a criminal charge. Does this damage his chance for re-election? And the question being, if we thought Hillary committed crimes with the emails and she should step down, are we being hypocritical for not saying the same thing of Sheriff Arpaio? I can't bring myself to say Sheriff Joe should go. There's a lot more politics involved here. But when the sheriff of Maricopa County is facing a criminal indictment, that is room for someone to say maybe it's time for something different. I wonder what the voters are going to say. He's in a primary race on Tuesday against Dan Sabin. If he survives that, he will face Paul Penzone probably in the general election, and we'll see if Sheriff Arpaio remains the sheriff of Maricopa County. Coming up in a moment, we have our interview with Helen Purcell. She's the county recorder in Maricopa County. And if you're a social media user, find us, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, on the web. Find us where we are. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back in just a moment. It's already a strange election year. We know with the two presidential candidates that we have, a lot of controversy going on. And in Maricopa County here in Arizona, there was some controversy. And joining us is the county recorder for Maricopa County, Helen Purcell. Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
I want to talk about what's happening in the primary elections here in Arizona, because you have been doing this since when? How long have you been doing this in Maricopa County?
Since 1989.
And
27 years.
So the anomaly that happened, let's just get that out of the way.
Okay.
That was an anomaly in Maricopa County. What happened, and when in the process did you realize there was a problem?
I think really that I knew that the weekend before,
Okay.
which is way too late to kind of do much about it, other than to try to throw some resources at it. But I think, as you said, with the candidates that we had, there was so much going on out there that we've not seen before. It was kind of like a perfect storm. We looked at past elections. We thought we could do this. If you look at it on paper, it would work. It just didn't.
So what was that night like for you? Because it seemed to, when we were there, I was at a polling place late, and nobody seemed to be upset at the polling place. It seemed that it was once they got home or the next day, whatever it was that caused people to be upset. Is that kind of how it rolled, or were you starting to get complaints earlier in the day?
No, we really didn't get complaints until after it was time for the polls to close, and they did not. And then we kind of saw a lot of the complaints after that.
But to reassure everyone, and I just wanted to kind of clear that up, because none of that's going to happen now. I mean, now it's set with the polling places that we have. The primary is going to go off in Maricopa County. How difficult is it to prepare for each one of these elections?
You know, we work at this a year in advance. We're looking at polling places. We'll have 724 polling places for this election, for both the primary and the general. And it's difficult to find those polling places. It's difficult to find poll workers. So you're working at doing that all during this process. Having your ballots ready, they have to be ready 45 days ahead of time so we can send them to the military, because they have to have their ballots early. So, you know, the second day after we sent those out to the military, we'd already had some of them who had voted, because they voted online.
What do you make of, is it difficult for you to run the election, but also run for an office?
It's very difficult for me to do, because there's some of the things I don't allow myself to do. I don't allow myself right now to be in the area where we have live ballots that have already been voted. I don't do that. I wouldn't allow any of the other candidates to do that, so I don't allow myself. And normally I'm kind of right in there in the mix of it. So that's difficult.
So when you look at what is happening now for the primary, what happened? I mean, after what happened before, and obviously the negative publicity that happened, it was, and a lot of it was political. It came out later on that a lot of it was politically motivated. But after the fallout, to reassure the voters, what happened to make sure the voters know, A, they're going to be able to vote, B, it's going to be easy, and C, their votes are going to be counted?
Well, I think that's the thing that we've tried to do. We've tried to do as much advertising as possible. We don't have a huge advertising budget, so we rely on the media to help us with that, to make sure that everybody knows that they have to go to their own polling place in their own precinct. There's 724 of them, so they can find that. We have all of that information online. They could, up until the Friday before the election. They could vote early if they wanted to at in-person places. We've sent all the early ballots out. We've told them that you have to at least mail that ballot in by the Wednesday before election, or you can drop it off at any polling place. So we want to make sure that the media gets aware of that they understand that people can go to our website, find out where their polling place is. They can find out what their sample ballot looks like. They can find any of that kind of information is right there on the website.
And that's got my sample ballot here recently. Do you get a lot of the same questions over and over again into the office? What is the most common question when people are calling or inquiring? Is it just finding their polling place or the deadline for voter registration? What are the questions people are asking?
The biggest question is what's on my ballot. That's the first question. If you think about it, they don't want to know, am I registered to vote or where my polling place is? But the first thing is, what's on my ballot before they know anything else. So we've got to do the background information on that to make sure that they are a qualified voter and where is their polling place and what is on that ballot. Because for the primary election, we have about 4,000 ballot styles across the county. So that's a lot of different ballots that people will be eligible for.
You were saying before we started the interview that in the first election that you were a part of, it was all paper, where you actually had to count them by hand.
Every bit of it we had counted by hand. We had a Valtrans election for public transportation in 1989, and we did that hand ballots. We counted them by hand. It took us days. We certainly didn't have the results at 8 o'clock that night.
Well, and
we'll have.
That's the difference now is that, how do you feel about that? I mean, just from a personal standpoint, where, there are people that still could be voting or they're standing in line, but the results are already coming out. Do you think it's something we should we wait a little longer to start releasing results?
We certainly can do that if we continue to see some lines, and you're going to see them. I don't think we will have them in the primary, but I think we will probably have them in the general, just because more people want to go and vote for president.
Right.
So we will have some lines. So maybe we should address that we wait until at least a reasonable length of time after the official closing of the polls, which is 7 o'clock. But anybody in line after that time can certainly vote.
So when you look at the potential for what do you think the turnout's going to be? Do you have predictors of what the turnout will be for the primary and the general?
We normally do. We usually couch that on how many early ballots we have sent out and how many we've gotten back, and we're kind of still in that process. We started counting the Tuesday before the election, and we'll count through early election day. So we're already counting ballots. Tried to do about 100,000 a day.
Well, I appreciate you coming and doing this. I know it's been a difficult couple of months for you, but moving forward, hopefully this is going to be a nice primary into the general election, and we focus on candidates and not anything else. But thank you for your time in doing this.
You're quite welcome.
We'll be back. Primary day right around the corner here in the state of Arizona. We got a lot of races here across the state. Thought we'd just cover a little bit of what's happening. First of all, the big race in Arizona is John McCain's seat for the United States Senate. He's being challenged by Dr. Kelly Ward and a man named Claire Van Steenwyk, who is not polling very high, but he is the other candidate in the race. I moderated a debate in which there was a McCain representative there. Dr. Ward was there along with Mr. Van Steenwyk, and it was interesting to see the diversity of opinions. John McCain wins his elections usually by double digits. He's challenged quite a bit. There's a lot of Republicans in Arizona, especially within the Republican Party, that don't like Senator McCain. He's been censured by the county party, but when it comes to the voters, he seems to poll very well, and he always seems to win elections by big numbers. That being said, Dr. Ward has done a phenomenal job in her campaign. I think she's run a better campaign against John McCain than anybody's run in a race before. She has shown herself to be a viable candidate. What I mean by that is she isn't someone that's going to replace the person you hate. She's run as a qualified candidate, and she's really made a lot of people pay attention to her, and she should be very proud of that. I have no idea how this primary is going to turn out. The polling numbers show Senator McCain up by 21 points recently. That's a hard hill to climb for Dr. Ward with this little time left, but she did do she's done a great job in her campaign. If John McCain survives this, whichever one of these candidates comes out, they will face Ann Kirkpatrick, who is a representative who is running for that Senate seat, and that should be an interesting race no matter what happens. As for the House races, Congressional District 1, you have Pinal County Sheriff Paul Babu is running for that seat, David Gowan, and then the former Secretary of State Ken Bennett Those three gentlemen, well-known names in Arizona politics, especially in the district in which they're running. Paul Babu has been a very popular sheriff. He is strong on the immigration issue. You see him on a lot of the cable networks all the time talking about the border issue, being a border sheriff, so to speak, and dealing with people in Vico Valley and Pinal County and how dangerous the drug cartels can be. David Gowan knows his way around Arizona politics, and Ken Bennett is one of the most soft-spoken people you've ever met, but a powerful force in Arizona politics. This primary is going to be, I believe, one of the closest of the primaries out there will be this race in District 1. In District 2, Martha McSally is up against Matt Hines. I think Martha McSally is going to be safe in the primary. I don't think she's done a great job. She's in a district that is very Democrat heavy, and so it's difficult for her to look at her in the same light you would as some of the other Republicans in the delegation from the House races, because she is in a district that's a lot more moderate than the right side of the party. And in District 5, this race has been Andy Biggs, Christine Jones, Justin Olson. Andy Biggs has been endorsed by and was chosen by the representative, Matt Salmon, to replace him. That's who he endorsed, and he's working on his campaign. He wants Andy Biggs to take his seat since he's not going to be there any longer. Christine Jones, former chief counsel for GoDaddy, she ran for governor, ran a great campaign for governor. And I got to give her credit. Whoever's doing her commercials, her political commercials, I think they're clever, and I think they point out that she's not a politician. Now, I don't know that it carries her to victory. She was up by 10 points at one point. Negative ads came out. Now it's a very dead heat, close race with these three candidates. We'll see which of them prevails in the primary moving forward. Trent Franks, no primary challenger in District 8. But in District 9, Kirsten Sinema and Dave Giles. Kirsten Sinema, what's interesting about Representative Sinema is when she was in the state legislature, she was seen as very far left. But she got along well with the Republican leadership, with the almost supermajority in the House and the Senate in the Arizona legislature, which I think helps her in Washington, because she has helped on both sides of the aisle. She has great veteran support in Arizona because she works very hard for the veterans. So even though she's a Democrat and votes with the Democrats most of the time, she has some popularity and at least trust with the more moderates and with people in the veteran community. So this is going to be interesting. I'm anxious to see what we report back after the primaries. Don't forget, if you're a social media user, we would love to hear from you. Find me on Twitter, find me on Instagram, find us on all the social media platforms like Facebook, and even online at aztv.com. We'll be back here in just a moment. We've got to do our military tribute, #this, and of course, Broomhead's Best. Don't go away. Welcome back. This is one of my favorite parts of the program. We call it From Arizona for America. It's our way to congratulate and thank the fine young men and women who have recently graduated from boot camp and are now serving in our country's military. So if you would join me this week in honoring Airman First Class Ricardo Biggs from Verrado High School in Goodyear, Airman Jeffrey Herron from Desert Ridge High School in Mesa, and Airman Travis Martinez Jr. from Mingus Union High School in Cottonwood. Now, for a list of all of our friends and neighbors that are from Arizona for America, go to the Mike Broomhead page at aztv.com. We'll be back in a moment. Broomhead's Best and #this, so don't go away. I love this part of the show. We call it Broomhead's Best. All right, Sports Illustrated has spoken pre-season. They have picked who they believe will win the Super Bowl. Well, guess what? They pick a rematch of the Steelers-Cardinals Super Bowl, but this time they pick the Arizona Cardinals to win the Super Bowl, and they predict Larry Fitzgerald will be on the Sports Illustrated cover. Now, there's a lot of people that think that's a curse, and if you know anything about Coach Arians, he is telling that team not to believe one word of it. But man, football's back, and congratulations to the Cardinals. And now it's something we call #this. All right, what's burning up the internet? Alice Cooper for president is the hashtag. His slogan, A troubled man for troubled times. His website consists of selling merchandise and reissuing his 1972 song, Elected. Let me tell you something. Alice Cooper may get my vote. I love him anyway, but with the choices we have, wouldn't it be great if you saw on election day Alice Cooper got enough of a percentage to show up on all of the polls? I think it's terrific. It's a great marketing ploy, and I think he's doing a great job. So congratulations to Alice Cooper. That's this week's #this. All right, coming up in just a moment, we close out the show. We'll talk about what's coming up next week and just a few more comments. We'll be back. You know, there's been a lot of comedians talking about and commenting on the elections, and it is funny. We got to laugh at ourselves, too. Both of the presidential candidates not very popular, but with the primary election going on right now here in the state of Arizona, important choices. The local races, your House races, congressional races, those people are going to affect your life immediately as well. So I hope you're going to turn out and vote in the primary. Looking forward to how we're going to report on it next week and who comes out of each of these primaries with the win moving forward, moving into the general election. So it's going to be an exciting time, I think, this week, for me anyway, when it comes to Arizona elections. Right around the corner, we're going to elect another president of the United States. So that's coming up here. Tuesday is our primary election. Next week on the show, we're going to revisit an issue about the stadium where the Arizona Diamondbacks play. The county, Maricopa County, wants to possibly sell the stadium. But what's involved with a $60 million price tag for a building that cost a lot of money? We'll talk about it next week. Have a great week, everyone. God bless.
Get more of Mike Broomhead on Facebook, Twitter, and of course weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on News Talk 550 KFYI.